taking the night shift at Greywood Hospital would be simple, just empty hallways, paperwork, and quiet hours. But by midnight, the silence wasn't just silence anymore. Whispers echoed through corridors. Lights flickered like something unseen was moving, and shadows appeared where they shouldn't. I laughed at first, telling myself it was exhaustion, until I saw a figure standing at the far end of the hallway, watching me. And then the intercom crackled my own voice, whispering, "You shouldn't be here." That's when I realized I wasn't alone. Ethan had always thought night shifts would be boring. Quiet hours, minimal paperwork, and the occasional wandering patient. What could possibly go wrong? But Greywood Hospital was different. The moment he stepped inside, a chill ran down his spine. The hallways smelled faintly of antiseptic mixed with something old, decayed, almost rotting. At first, he brushed it off as the building settling, but as the clock struck midnight, the silence became suffocating. Fluorescent lights flickered sporadically, casting shadows that seemed to twist and stretch with a life of their own. Ethan's footsteps echoed unnaturally loud, and at every turn, he felt the invisible weight of eyes on him. He started his rounds, checking patient rooms and empty corridors. Everything seemed normal until he heard it. A faint whisper, soft yet chilling, calling his name from the far end of a hallway. "Ethan?" The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. He froze, heart pounding, trying to convince himself it was imagination. Ethan reached the security office to check the monitors. The screens showed empty halls, silent rooms, nothing unusual. But in the corner of one feed, a shadow moved against the flow of light. He leaned closer. Nothing. A sense of unease tightened around his chest. A sudden clatter made him spin. The hallway was empty. Then the intercom crackled, and a voice his own, distorted and trembling, whispered, "You shouldn't be here." Ethan's pulse raced. He stumbled back, nearly tripping over a rolling cart. The lights flickered violently and then went out, plunging the hospital into darkness. His flashlight, shaking in his hands, barely cut through the black. At the far end of the hallway, he saw a tall, shadowy figure, still and silent, gliding closer with each heartbeat. It didn't walk. It floated, deliberate and menacing. Ethan's instincts screamed to run, but his legs refused to move. Every breath was a struggle. Every second stretched into eternity. He realized, with a sinking horror, that Greywood Hospital held secrets far darker than he had ever imagined. And whatever watched him wasn't human. Ethan's hands trembled as he gripped the flashlight tighter, its weak beam barely cutting through the suffocating darkness of Greywood Hospital. Every hallway now seemed alive, shadows twisting unnaturally along the walls. He tried to tell himself it was exhaustion, that the night was playing tricks on his mind, but the unease in his chest refused to relent. At the far end of the eastern wing, he noticed a door he hadn't seen on the hospital map. The paint was chipped, the hinges rusted, and an icy draft seeped from the edges. Something about it called to him, daring him to open it. Heart hammering, he pushed. The door groaned, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The basement smelled of damp stone and decay. Ethan's flashlight barely pierced the blackness, revealing walls scrawled with faded symbols and cryptic messages. Papers littered the floor-old patient files, journals, and yellowed photographs. One journal caught his eye. It contained records of patients who had mysteriously disappeared over decades, some marked with strange symbols and ominous notes. A chill ran down Ethan's spine. This was no ordinary hospital. Its past was steeped in secrets, in horrors no one dared speak aloud. A sudden noise made him spin. At the far corner, a shadow moved slowly, deliberately. Not like a person, but like a living darkness, drifting with intent. Ethan's pulse raced. He stepped forward cautiously, scanning the basement. The figure didn't walk. It glided, its form distorted and impossible to comprehend. Ethan's eyes fell on a broken mirror leaning against the wall. At first, it reflected him. Then it didn't. The reflection's eyes glowed faintly, a cruel, twisted smile spreading across its face. It mimicked his movements, but in ways that sent a chill deeper than any shadow. A whisper echoed from the darkness. "You should stay." The words wrapped around him, suffocating, inescapable. Panic surged, but he knew he had to keep moving. The basement seemed to stretch, corridors twisting as if the building itself were alive, attempting to trap him. Suddenly, the shadow lunged. Ethan felt a cold, unseen force grip him, dragging him toward the dark heart of the basement. He struggled, lungs burning, mind racing. He realized the entity wasn't just a spirit, it was bound to the hospital itself, feeding off fear, trapping souls who dared venture too far. Ethan's flashlight flickered violently, then dimmed. Darkness swallowed him almost entirely, leaving him disoriented. Yet he knew he had to fight or become another lost soul in Greywood Hospital's legacy of shadows. Ethan scrambled to his feet, the cold stone floor biting through his thin uniform. The shadow loomed larger, a living mass of darkness that seemed to absorb the weak beam of his flashlight. Every instinct screamed to run, yet amid the fear, a spark of determination ignited. This thing thrived on terror, and he refused to give it more power. He remembered the journals, the warnings about symbols, light, and fear. Spotting an old emergency lantern on a shelf, Ethan grabbed it, flicking it on. Its warm, golden glow pierced the darkness. The shadow shrieked, a soundless, twisting horror, as if the light burned its essence. He realized it wasn't invincible. Its strength came from him believing he couldn't fight back. Heart hammering, Ethan sprinted toward the basement stairs, the entity gliding silently behind him. The walls seemed to warp, corridors stretching impossibly, trying to trap him. He held the lantern high, chanting the symbols aloud, hoping the ancient rites would weaken it. The shadow hesitated, flickering, unstable. Every step was agony. Every breath was fire in his lungs. The basement seemed endless, filled with echoes of past victims, whispers of their fear and pain. Ethan remembered the faces in the journals, their eyes pleading for release. Determined, he pressed forward, feeling a strange energy guiding him toward the rooftop exit. As he pushed the final door open, the cold night air hit him, sharp and real. Moonlight spilled across the hospital's crumbling roof, illuminating the shadow one last time. It lunged, but now Ethan understood. The shadow mirrored his fear. He stared directly at it, refusing to flinch. The lantern's glow burned brighter, and the shadow screamed silently, dissolving into a swirling mist that seemed to retreat into the walls, the floor, the very bones of Greywood Hospital. Ethan collapsed on the rooftop, chest heaving, legs trembling. The hospital stood behind him, ancient, silent, but alive in ways he couldn't yet comprehend. He glanced back at the dark windows. For a moment, he thought he saw movement, faint flickers of shadow, reflections that weren't quite right. Then it vanished, leaving him in uneasy silence. A cold wind whispered across the rooftop, carrying faint echoes of the basement whispers, almost like voices urging him to look closer. Ethan shivered. Greywood Hospital had claimed countless lives, and the night shift never truly ended. Some part of the darkness had followed him. He could feel it in the air, in the walls, in the shadows stretching long across the moonlit street below. He turned to leave, but a reflection caught his eye in a broken window. At first, it was him. Then it shifted. Just a silhouette, impossibly tall, impossibly still, watching. The faintest smile curled on its featureless face. Ethan realized, with a cold knot in his stomach, that Greywood Hospital had changed him. Part of it would always remain inside him, tethered to its darkness, and the shadows were patient, always waiting for the next night shift. The wind carried one final whisper, almost like a promise. we'll meet again. And as Ethan disappeared into the early morning fog, the hospital loomed behind him, silent but alive, forever hungry, forever watching.